All right, let's talk about the seismic shift that's shaking up Silicon Valley. We're talking about Apple. After this incredible 14-year run, it looks like Tim Cook, the man leading the most valuable company on the planet, is getting ready to step down. And that just raises one massive question. Who on earth can fill those shoes?
And when we say the stakes are high, I mean they are unimaginably high. We're not just talking about some executive shuffle here. We're talking about the future of a company worth at its peak $4 trillion. Just to put that number in perspective for you, that's more than the entire economy of every single country on Earth, except for the US, China, and Germany. Wow.
So yeah, that sets up the multi-trillion-dollar question that everyone, from boardrooms to newsrooms, is asking right now. Who is going to lead this absolute titan of a company into its next era? Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down for you. First, we'll dig into that $4 trillion question. Then we'll meet the person who's the clear frontrunner for the top job. We'll also look at how Apple seems to be clearing the deck for this big change, what massive challenges are waiting for the new CEO, and finally, what the timeline looks like for all of this to happen. All right, so first up, let's really get a handle on just how big of a moment this is. We are literally witnessing the end of an incredible era for Apple. I mean, just think about the journey under Tim Cook. When he took the reins from Steve Jobs back in 2011, Apple was worth around $350 billion. A lot, right? Well, today, it's soared to a mind-blowing $4 trillion. That is an 11-fold increase. It's just an unbelievable run of success. So let's be super clear about something. This is not happening because of bad performance. It is the exact opposite. This is a very carefully planned handover for one of the most successful CEOs, period. And the timing is interesting, right? As Apple is getting ready for another huge holiday season. Okay, so if Tim Cook is stepping down, who's the frontrunner to take over? Well, all signs point to a true hardware mastermind. The name you're going to want to remember is John Ternus. Pretty much all the insiders are pointing to him as the clear-cut choice to be the next CEO of Apple. Right now, his official title is Senior Vice President of Hardware Engineering. So what does that actually mean? Well, to put it simply, he's the guy in charge of the teams that build the physical Apple products we all know and love. You know, the stuff we actually hold in our hands every day. And listen, this guy's track record, it's basically a highlight reel of Apple's greatest hardware heads. He was the one who spearheaded that game-changing switch to the M1 chip. He led the whole Mac silicon revolution that just completely redefined what those computers could do. And he's been overseeing huge innovations in the iPhone. If he gets the job, it's a real signal that Apple's going back to its roots, putting a true product and hardware genius back in the driver's seat. But here's where it gets really interesting. Ternus getting this promotion, it's not happening in a vacuum. Nope. It's actually a key piece of a much bigger, very systematic refresh of Apple's entire leadership team. I mean, just look at the timeline from this year alone. Back in January, the CFO, Luca Maestri, stepped back. Then, in July, the COO, Jeff Williams, and a lot of people thought he was the heir apparent, he announced he's leaving too. You see the pattern here, right? It's pretty unmistakable. So the big takeaway here is that this is way bigger than just finding a new CEO to replace Tim Cook. It looks like Apple is strategically clearing the deck to bring in a whole new generation of leaders to steer the ship for the next decade. And you know, that new leadership team, they are going to face some absolutely monumental challenges right from day one. And it really boils down to two key things: AI and innovation. So first, let's talk about the AI race. You've got Microsoft, Google, Meta, they're all in on this stuff. And to be honest, a lot of people see Apple as playing catch-up here. So the new CEO has this defining question hanging over their head. Can they make Apple dominate AI the same way they dominated smartphones? Huge challenge. And then there's the innovation challenge. Think about it. The Apple Watch was their last huge brand new product category. That was back in 2015, almost a decade ago. Yeah, the Vision Pro is super ambitious, but it's not exactly a mainstream hit yet. So the new boss has to answer that massive, looming question. What's the next big thing after the iPhone? But what's really fascinating about all this is that none of it is a surprise to Apple. Tim Cook himself has gone on record saying they prefer to hire from within. He even confirmed that the company has had, and I'm quoting him here, very detailed succession plans for a long time. So yeah, this has been in the works for a while. Okay, so with all these pieces moving, the big question on everyone's mind is, when? When is this actually going to go down? Well, here's what the likely timeline looks like.
So here's the timeline that insiders are predicting. First, don't expect to hear a peep before the big holiday earnings report comes out in January. Then, the announcement itself will most likely drop sometime in early 2025. That gives the new CEO a few months to get settled before their huge public debut at the Worldwide Developers Conference, WWDC, in June. And that all leads up to their first massive test, launching the new iPhone in September. And that brings us right back to the critical $4 trillion question at the very heart of all this. In an age that's being completely redefined by AI, is a hardware genius the right person to lead Apple into the future? Or does the company really need a true AI visionary to figure out what's next? That's the fundamental choice Apple's board is wrestling with right now.